staff prior to meetings so they'll have time to prepare and make copies of them. So if you got amendments, come and go to them and get them copied and ready. All amendments and committee substitutes will be distributed at the beginning of the meeting to reduce confusion. And then, of course, be courteous, which we haven't had any problem with that in here now the Senate's gone. Being courteous to one another and to the person presiding. Be sure to turn your mic on and talk in it. And don't sit there like you just got up here and you're doing all this, just turn the darn thing on. Quit telling dirty jokes and then you won't have to worry about it being on. One other thing, of course, I agree with what the governor said last night very much when he said that this should not be a partisan committee, and I'll have to say that I don't feel like it has been in the previous years, and the way I see it, while a Republican bill just gives a Democrat bill, it does. And I want everybody to feel free to vote your conscience. You don't have to vote with me. I wish you would, but on my bills. Any other comments before we get started by anyone on the committee? Okay, let's bring up then HB 16 BR 23. Representative Callahan from Western Kentucky.
I'll tell you if I claim that after I'm done. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is a bill that came before the interim committee, subcommittee on students and curriculum, and then ultimately before the interim committee on education. In both instances, after it was explained, it came out of both committees with no negative votes. What we're trying to do is to establish a degree of fairness here, and in 1990, a bill was passed that mandated that if a school has a sport that's similar to what a NCAA school has in giving scholarships, that it shall have that particular sport. Prior to that, slow pitch softball was a big issue in the girls throughout the state. And all we're asking for in this bill, since there was a lot of confusion, and I'm going to be very honest with you, in 1994, I voted for House Bill 490 because I only thought what it was doing is adding another extracurricular to the already existing curriculum that the girls had to choose from. So this bill would simply take, and I'd like to call your attention to a couple things, and particularly on the bill itself. On page number 1, the language there that's underlined, or it's stricken out rather, is a language that concerns me. And if you look down at line 15, where it says the school shall sponsor. That's very clear. They shall sponsor. So take it for instance, if a school always had slow pitch softball and they don't have enough girls, they have 2 teams, then they are relegated to playing fast pitch softball, even though they may have preferred to have slow pitch softball. So what we're trying to do in today's problems that we have out on the streets with a lot of juveniles around, and I'm not saying that the girls are in this situation, but it could be, we don't want to take away choices for curriculum. We want to add choices so they're involved and therefore give them less time to get into trouble. You have a letter, and I have many documents that I could present to you, but you have a letter from the Kentucky High School Athletic Association athletic directors, and they are 100% in support of this bill. It came from the president of the committee at that time from Hopkins County. So if there are no questions, I ask that what we do is we undo a mandate that was put on in 1994 and permit the schools to make the choice. If they want to have slow pitch, fine. If they want to have fast pitch, fine. If they're big enough, they want to have both, fine. But let them make that decision and not put a mandate out of Frankfurt.
Second. Any questions or comments about the bill? We have a motion by Representative Clark. You got it? I'll throw it in a second. Call the roll.
Representative Alexander. Representative Barrows. Representative Clark. Representative Coleman. Representative Coulter. Representative Graham. Representative Kerr. Representative Marzian. Representative Minyard. Representative Mobberly. Representative Murgatroyd. Representative Rash.
Yes.
Representative Reiner. Representative Seiler.
Yes.
Representative Sims. Representative Stein. Representative Trish.
Aye.
Representative Walton. Representative Kurd.
Yes. Bill does pass out favorably.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
I haven't heard a thing about consent calendar. Okay, good. No opposition to that, okay? That hadn't been mentioned yet, though, I don't think, but it's, right, it's good. What? She said it's still in place, so, good. All right, next we got HB 67, BR 453. Man from Scottsville, isn't he? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the committee, HB 67 is a small, simple little bill that I hope you've had a chance to look at and maybe talk to some of your school superintendents about. I became interested in this issue in the spring of 1997 during the real flooding that we had. Became convinced that some schools probably stayed out of school because they feared funding problems because of lack of attendance. They knew if they went back to school too quickly, although they needed to be back in school, they probably stayed out because of problems in the funding formula, which, as you know, it's based on average daily attendance. So what this bill simply does, and I've talked with the commissioner about this, with Commissioner Cody and his staff, and they feel like that this is the best way and simplest way and virtually has no cost to address this issue. And what it simply does, if you would look at it, I'm sure you probably have it in front of you, it simply drops 5 days from the funding formula on your average daily attendance. So what you could do is at the end of the year, if you have a day when you have 83% attendance, that's a day you're going to be able to drop from your funding formula. It's a simple bill. It will encourage school attendance when school should be held. And I feel like that it is welcome, and I know every superintendent I've talked to is excited about this bill. And I think if there are any questions about it, but it's a simple way to address a very complicated problem. I think there are snow days. I would like to use, particularly using the example of the flood. In Jefferson County, the assistant superintendent called me when he saw that I had filed this bill and explained what happened to the folks in Jefferson County, and for some members of the Jefferson County delegation on the committee, or I don't know if I see any of them right now, but I know in their instance, during the flood, they had their schools open every day. They knew attendance might be low, but they wanted a place for some of those children that were in shelters to have a hot meal and come to school. So they had their schools open through the entire flooding. In the end, at the end of the month, they figured out they'd lost a lot of revenue for doing a very great service to the people and the children of Jefferson County. I think it will be very important for some of the areas in the mountains where we have some unusual snows, that you might be able to have school knowing you might have attendance just a little bit lower, but you say, oh, I'm not going to have it today because I'm only going to have 86% because one road we might not be able to get to. In this way, you can go on and have school when the learning environment is the best and not be making up as many days in June. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I think it's a bill that we need, and I would urge the adoption of it.
Questions? Do I hear a motion? Okay, so Clark and Barbara Coulter then second it. Call the roll.
Representative Alexander. Representative Barrows, Representative Clark, Representative Coleman, Representative Coulter, Representative Graham, Representative Kerr, Representative Marzian, Representative Minyard, Representative Moberly, Representative Murgatroyd, Representative Rash, Representative Reiner, Representative Seiler,
I want to vote yes, and I want to commend the sponsor of this bill for a very thoughtful approach.
Thank you, Representative.
Representative Sims, Representative Stein, Representative Trish, Representative Walton, Representative Kurd.
Yes, the bill passes favorably. I hear a motion on the consent. Okay, so moved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. Appreciate it.
Next, we're gonna skip over this and they're getting an amendment for it and go to House Bill 100, BR 187. Representative Coulter. Just stay here if you'd like. You've got somebody to explain it besides you. I know you'll have a half a hundred people out there. I know you know. And you last three to come in when you get the meetings over, come by and get your tardy slip, three tardies and you're out of here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill is just a cleanup bill. This is a part of BR 187 in the past where it explains about a teacher, the term year as a teacher. We have psychologists, school psychologists, which I've worked with for not 20 years, but I've worked in the school system 30 years and a long time with them. And they've just been great from where we come from. And the school psychologists are nowhere mentioned in this bill whatsoever, and all we're doing is asking that the term school psychologist be a part of this bill. And we have approximately 220 school psychologists in the state. And if some of you are not aware of them, they do an excellent job, from, like I said, from where I come. And we are just lucky enough to have 4 in our county in Clay. And I'm sure we have many more across the state, but the 4 that I have been associated with are just great in the way that they work. They not only work with children with learning disabilities or children in high risk, they work with all children. And I'd like to say that just during the last little while, we've used them when we had a tragedy in Clay County of a child that was kidnapped and killed. Our school psychologists came to our crisis team and worked in our schools and really helped our schools. And I understand that we have a state crisis team now, and I think they went to the Heath School. And Scott County, when we had a little girl fall out of the bus or her clothing get stuck in the bus door and she was dragged, and a lot of children saw this, then we had our crisis team went there and our school psychologists. And I don't think I need to say any more about it. These people have worked in our county as in administration, and our social workers are listed in this law, and our guidance counselors, but nowhere are the school psychologists. If you'd like to ask me a question, I may not be able to answer it, but I've got somebody here that could. So,
Any questions?
I move the bill for passage.
Okay, Representative. Okay, second. All right, any questions before we vote? Boy, this is too easy. Call roll.
Representative Alexander, Representative Barrows, Representative Clark, Representative Coleman, Representative Coulter,
yes.
Representative Graham, Representative Kerr, Representative Marzian, Representative Minyard, Representative Moberly, Representative Murgatroyd, Representative Rash, Representative Reiner, Representative Seiler,
Yes.
Representative Sims, Representative Stein, Representative Trish, Representative Walton, Representative Kurd.
Yes.
Thank
Bill
you.
passes, favorable expressions. Okay, second? So be it. Last, we have, HB 78, BR 856, Representative Arnold. Is the amendment not ready? Complicated or something, or what? Is that many ready? Frank, do that? Okay. Representative Arnold, that amendment's not hardly ready, but I think it will be shortly, so we'll just go ahead.
I think we could
and
go
explain.
ahead. It's just a minor amendment, but,
Right.
Mr. Chairman and the members of the committee, I have some people here that has appeared before you during the interim at least twice about community education. If there's a need, they'd be glad to testify again. If not, well, they'll be available for to answer some questions. The bill, community education, let me back up. I was asked to introduce this bill because Montgomery County had the first community education in the state in 1972. And there are other counties that have community education doing a great job. This bill appropriates $3.8 million, $1 per capita, to be used for community education in the state, and the counties would have to match at 25 cents for each dollar. And this is a lifelong learning bill. It is an umbrella for all education within the county. And if there are any questions, I'll explain the bill further. I know we've been here twice during the interim. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I might yield to the gentleman from Franklin for some additional comments, if you like.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I had the good fortune for a number of years when I was working in the Department of Education to see this concept in action. As Representative Arnold mentioned, the Montgomery County program was the first program effort in the state of Kentucky where a local board of education adopted a resolution saying that they believed in this concept and they were in fact going to implement it. Now when you say that, there's four different elements, very basic elements that's involved in this concept. And one is, as he mentioned, the belief in lifelong learning. A second one is that the local school district should work in harmony and try to facilitate activity with other agencies and groups in the community to bring this about, and to have a systematic way of involving the public in decision makings. I mean, this is back before education reform, and we had councils operating in districts like Montgomery County addressing these types of issues. And a fourth component is that the public facilities in every school district should be accessible to all citizens in their school district, not just K through 12. And in places where you have this concept and process in place, you will find those components being practiced. The people, I noticed in the audience now, there are a number of school districts representative of coordinators. See, the key to making this successful is to have in place a facilitator, someone who understands processes and can see that conceptualize the big picture of lifelong learning. And if you look at Kentucky's education right now and what we've been trying to deal with in recent years, there is a gap that exists. We do not have a seamless system just yet, because I dare say in every one of our counties, there's a large segment that have never received their high school education or the GED. And I know we have vocational schools and we have community colleges and things of this nature. But this, to me, it seems to be a responsibility of a local district to address the needs of all these people. And so we have facilities in place. This is not a pilot project. This has been piloted since 1972 in places. But to keep this, and we do have some state funding. There was some state funding sponsored by Senator Ken Gibson back in around 1980, 586. But prior to that time, there have been efforts, grassroots efforts, to get support for this, because this is a grassroots movement. So it's not something that just came all of a sudden. It's developed over a process of time. And it seems to me, and since I had the opportunity and was thrilled to see the involvement and how much success, and what just a little bit of money with a trained person can do to bring together all these things. I noticed last night in the governor's speech, he made a statement. We need to work together to make the best use of taxpayers' money. Now, there are many programs and efforts that's going on in counties where no one specifically has a responsibility. Or someone does, they haven't had the training to understand group processes. This concept has things in place. Their infrastructure's there. It's money. Money. And we have adults, 75–80% of adults in our state do not have children of school age. I think we really committing harm to our local communities if we don't try to provide an opportunity for them to get the schools open. Help supplement what's going on in Family Resource Youth Services. Supplement what's going on in vocational schools. Well, I'm getting carried away, and I apologize for that. But really, I've seen this happen. I've been in education all my life. I'm 68. And this is one of those beneficial things that I have ever seen, observed. And I just want every county to have an option. It doesn't mean every county is going to have to. It simply says if a county wants to, they can do this, and it builds a partnership between the schools in the counties and the community, because any funds they get from this has to be matched by 25% at the county level. And those funds can come from any source. So you're building a partnership. It does all the things. If you study our Education Reform Act, it does all the things that our Education Reform Act was built on. And so I wanted to pass.
I would never guess. Trash big vote to pass it. I hear a second. Barbara Coulter. Any questions now before we have any more? I was about ready to put the 5-minute rule on. You have a question, Frank?
Yes.
Representative Rice,
I was wondering, Representative Graham mentioned supplementing the resource centers, and I see all of that possibility, but I also see a great overlap in this list that's on your summary sheet and the areas that the resource centers deal with. Is there anything in here to assure that they would be coordinated instead of competing with one another? I mean, I don't have any problem with this. I'm for it, no problem.
I understand.
But I don't want a spitting war between two resources going on in the community either.
Louise Summers, coordinator from Montgomery County, and I think she could answer those a lot better than I.
Okay.
Hi. Is this on? I don't want to be on.
Turn it on. Turn it on.
Right on.
Help her out there, Aiden.
Okay. I don't know where I can. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't want to commit a faux pas.
Here you
But
are.
I know. You asked me not to. Actually, with Family Resource Youth Service Centers and community
Speak into the
education.
mic.
Let me see. It's on, but it's not working. Chat this one.
Actually, with community education,
There you
Family
go.
Resource Youth Service Centers, all the difference in the world in the two programs. Most often, Family Resource Centers, Youth Service Centers, the work that they do is confined within the environments of the school they serve. Most of their work involves social work. They get caught up with counseling and doing the social work aspect, working mainly with a lot of the indigent families. Community education is so different. I have the pleasure in Montgomery County of working with total school district, total family, business and industry, ministerial association, I work with everyone, and a lot of times I see myself as the connector, and I'm the one who's out there making certain that we're sharing all of our resources and combining them, and to make certain that there's not a duplication of services, because so often that does happen. And when you've got that one person in your county, and in Montgomery County, I think community education is very integral, not just to education, but to the total community. We do a lot of things over there, and any time that they do anything major in Montgomery County, they don't necessarily say, let's have Louise there. They say, let's get community education involved, because they know that I'm the one person, or I'm the one program in that county that is working with all aspects of community. And it's so important now as we go toward the year 2000 that we do this, because we can no longer do education in that P through 12 classroom. We have to bring community in. We cannot involve them. We have to engage them. Community education is the way of engaging that community in. Family Resource and Youth Service Centers, I might add, I do have a wonderful partnership with them in Montgomery County. We do a lot of things together. I think that what they do enhances what I do, and I also believe that what community education does enhances Family Resource and Youth Service Centers. It's a wonderful partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Is the amendment here, Mr.
The
Chairman?
amendment is not here. We're going to read it. I do it orally, I guess, because I don't know if they've been fooling with it for a while, and they had to get somebody to approve it besides Sandy and her group. So if y'all want to explain it, one of you want to explain it.
A co-sponsor, Franklin, would you read your amendment, or our amendment? It's on page 2, line 8.
On page 2, beginning with line 9 and going down to 12. The wording would go like this, if I can, out here. The state appropriation shall be at $1 per capita. That means capita population, state of Kentucky, $1 per capita, as determined by the most recent available consensus data. So the 1990 census, we had about 3.67 or something of that nature, I believe. That would be what it would be. The funds shall be distributed by the Kentucky Board of Education to counties through a grant process. No county shall receive less than $20,000. Then on line 13, that the match there, 25% match, would be 25% match of the dollar amount that the county gets. You see, we have several counties that do not have a high population. We have several counties that have a population under 20,000. And the thinking of the people that had been involved in this movement was that if you're going to get a person and have a salary that will enable them to do these types of activities, then there should be a base of at least $20,000. And then that will be matched. 25% will come locally. Match that. So that's the essence. So we will know up front how much money has to be appropriated. It's going to be about population. You notice also in the bill that it calls for a council, an advisory council to be appointed, made up of, it's on page 1, starting at line 7, 15-person council appointed by the governor. And then you see who's going to be on this council. And this group would have oversight over this whole program. And so it's to make sure there's equity in things in the funding process. That's basically what it has to do.
Representative Rash?
Excuse me, on the amendment, what are you doing with the
Hey,
with
Frank, I
the
have a
match?
difficulty hearing. I can't understand.
I'm sorry, on the amendment, what are you doing with the match? Are you changing what's written here?
The match would be 25% of the amount a county receives.
So a county with fewer than 20,000 still has to come up with $5,000?
No, that's why they changed it. See, if you say that every county is going to get $1 per head per county, then you're going to and have a base of $20,000. Then the appropriation is going to be more than 3.67.
No, I understand on the state part.
So if you got $250,000, then you'd have to match 25%.
Well, but if a county has fewer than 20,000 people,
still get 20,000.
They get 20,000.
Yes.
What is their match? Is
That'd
it
be
5,000?
Yeah, 5,000.
Okay, because here it would be less than 5,000 in the bill that was originally written.
Right, I think that's the reason for the amendment.
So the amendment will,
Yeah.
these counties will have to have $5,000 minimum.
It'd be 25. Yeah. the
All right,
amendment
so
has
so
that.
really you're looking at
Yes.
each county will have a minimum of $25,000 then to begin
That's
this
correct,
program.
Frank.
Okay.
That's in there.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Who manages the money, the local school board or the fiscal court?
Usually it is the local school board. They serve as fiscal agent.
Any other questions? Representative Kerr?
Question. How much is the council going to cost? How much will it cost for the council?
Department of Education would have to keep some funds just to facilitate meetings with council.
Will those council members be paid? and
No.
Expenses?
Expenses.
And then, no, so what the amendment, I don't really understand the amendment, but I think, like, are you saying for the amendment that we're going to allocate $1 per person statewide?
Yes.
But a county that has more than 20,000 population won't get $1 per capita?
They possibly could. Yeah. This council is going to be set up, overseeing, would put up the guidelines. There, for instance, Jefferson County has, what, 300,000 people? We'll say they have 300,000 people. There may not necessarily be a need for $300,000 for Jefferson County. They may get somewhat a lesser amount because for a facilitator, you may not need whatever that divides into. So each local district, or each county, each proposal, will submit a proposal to the Board of Education. And you have this council that oversees this. And they would write in how they want to, what type of program, how they want to utilize it. Are they going to make sure they're going to have the agency collaboration? They're going to address the various needs in the county. And they would request how much funding they need for this. And then with the work of this council, they bargain back and forth to make sure that every county in the state that wants to participate will have adequate funds to have this type of facilitation.
Would each school district within the county have
Every county that they could have, yes. For instance, up in Kenton County, you have several school districts. There would be one proposal comes from Kenton County. Those districts within Kenton County would come together and present one proposal. They would determine who's going to be the district of record.
So only one district?
Gets the money funnels through there, but their plan would say in Kenton County we're going to set it up this way. It brings collaboration by the districts into county. Then you could have a coordinator in every district. You follow me? But we're trying to. You could have in your plan that every district in your county would have one, but to facilitate collaboration, to break the and to bring about the involvement of all the various entities, we say one proposal per county, and then there at the local level they work out how they want to utilize the monies. So that would be presented in their proposal.
Representative Trish?
Yeah, as I'm looking at this amendment, really all it does, seems to me, is rearrange some of the language we already had. We had on page 3 the minimum of 20,000 per county. It strikes that language and just brings it forward onto page 2. and then just cleans up that language a little bit. So really, the fiscal impact shouldn't change on this. And all we're trying to do is clean up the language, essentially. Just make sure each county gets 20,000, they still have the same match, et cetera.
And then the counties that are larger than, the larger counties would be through the amount of money they would be through the grant process with the application they submit.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion on the amendment? Representative Coulter, I hear a second.
A second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Any question on the bill that's amended? Okay, second by Dottie. Call the roll.
Representative Alexander? Yes. Representative Barrows? Representative Clark? Representative Coleman? Representative Coulter? Representative Graham?
Yes.
Representative Kerr?
Yes.
Representative Marzian? Representative Minyard? Representative Mobberly? Representative Murgatroyd? Representative Rash?
Yes.
Representative Reiner? Representative Seiler?
Yes.
Representative Sims? Representative Stein? Representative Trish?
Yes.
Representative Walton?
Yes.
Representative Curd?
Yes, the bill passed favorably. Do I hear a motion on consent?
That we roll the amendment and bill together for committee.
Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Consent calendar, here you come.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
committee, we want to thank you very much for passing the bill. I want to express, on behalf of all these people here that's worked so hard for this, I want to express that I appreciate it on their behalf, and I think it's great for Kentucky. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments before we adjourn? We're gone.